Hey guys, this is MTG Degree, my name is Luke, and at the channel here, we have a history of having kind of offbeat deck techs and mill deck techs, and this deck tech is both of those things, so let's get right to it. So what's this deck's game plan? The first thing is a card called Ensnaring Bridge. This is very important. So it just allows you to stop your opponents from attacking you for a long time until you get your game plan up and running. So what's the game plan? Don't allow them to attack you. Got that covered. And make sure that they never draw anything useful for the rest of the game, which is a little bit harder to accomplish. So how do we do that? Well, the first card is a card called Lantern of Insight, which makes it so both people have a Course of Crufixy effect going on. You see the top of the deck. Then you have a card, Ghoulcaller's Bell, and Codex Shredder. And so once you have multiple copies of these, and you see the top of their deck, you can always activate them and make sure that they don't draw a useful card, and then allow them to draw the cards that don't do anything. Allow them to have their kill spells, allow them to have their lands, allow them to have random enchantments that aren't useful, right? So how does the deck win? The deck wins by milling out your opponent ever so slowly. Just make sure they don't draw anything useful for a while. Codex shred them to pieces, and they're toast. Now, what do we call this deck, you ask? Well, right now, people are calling it Lantern Control, which is not a very exciting name. And plus, it's not even really a control deck, it's a prison deck. So I've come up with two alternate names that I like a lot. The first one is Ensnaring Lantern. Ooh. And the other one is Ghostly Prison. And the reason that I like this one is because it's a prison deck, and Lantern of Insight, Codex Shredder, and Ghoulcaller's Bell are all these eerie, ghostly-like artifacts. And so it's a ghostly prison. It's a great name. But what we've talked about so far is not a deck, it's a couple of cards that work well together. So let's talk about the rest of the deck. Alright, well let's talk about our lands first. We got 2 Blackcleave Cliffs, 2 Copperline Gorge, 2 Ghost Quarters, 4 Glimmervoids, 4 Llanowar Wastes, 1 Tendo Ice Bridge, and 2 Academy Ruins. Additionally, the deck has 3 Mox Opals, which are not technically lands, but they produce mana, and so I'm happy to call them lands. Let's talk about the other things in this deck that puts the prison bars in place. The first one is 4 Ancient Stirrings. This is very useful because it allows you to search quite deep for whatever artifact you might be missing from your prison. The next important package in this deck is the Look at the Opponent's Hand package, which is 2 Duress, 3 Gitaxian Probes, and 3 Inquisition of Kozilek. Now, this is very important because the deck runs on perfect information. You're denying them their draw step knowing what they already have, so they can never put together a real game against you. With these 3 cards in here, it becomes very hard for an opponent to ever get something started. The next card I'd like to talk about are the 2 copies of Surgical Extraction in the deck. Surgical Extraction is generally considered a bad card because you have to deal with the problem to get it in the graveyard, and then deal with the future problem that they may or may not have. But Surgical Extraction has a very good ability in mill decks, and the reason why is because you don't have to deal with a problem to put it in the graveyard so that you can deal with it with Surgical Extraction. You're already milling them, so you can just take out any of their outs by surgically extracting them. Plus you get to look at their hand, which is awesome. The next card is 2 copies of Abrupt Decay. And the thing that's nice about this is that the one thing that your opponent is going to be able to do is stick something early that really matters and you can't get rid of. However, early drops usually have low converted mana cost, and this card will blow those things up very easily. The next card is 2 copies of Pyrite Spellbomb. This card's useful because you can cycle it, draw a card, or you can get rid of any small creatures that got down early and are causing you problems. The next card is Pithing Needle, which is very interesting and you can use in a variety of ways. The first thing you can do, which I find is hilarious, is you can turn off fetch lands. If you call out fetch lands before they're played, say on turn 1, then if they have those fetch lands in their hand, they are never cracking them in order to go get anything. You can also call out Planeswalker names, and then the Planeswalkers can't be activated, or any creature that has some sort of cool tap ability that might cause you problems. The last thing that it's good at is turning off sideboard cards. So, for example, Engineered Explosives hits almost all of the artifacts in the deck. So if you just Pithing Needle for Engineered Explosives because you can't come up with anything better to do, then that's actually a pretty good play. The last card in the deck is 3 copies of Spellskite. Spellskite is just an amazing modern creature. It makes it very hard for anyone to go off using Splinter Twin because you can take their aura. Same with Boggles, you just completely shut it down, you take all the auras that they want to cast. And the card is just very strong. Spellskite is probably a card that could see more main deck play than it does. Now, the sideboard of this deck, as with all sideboards, is a fluid thing, but I will tell you what it is right now. As of now, there's 1 Grafdigger's Cage, 4 Sun Droplets, 2 Welding Jars, 1 Ancient Grudge, 3 Nature's Claim, 1 Bow of Nylea, and 3 Pyroclasms. Now, one of the interesting things about this deck is that its game plan is entirely colorless. The main game plan is all artifact-based, and therefore, you can change your sideboard to include the best sideboard cards in whatever color you need, and you'll be able to cast them, and you'll be able to change your mana base in the main board if you need to, and it won't change the game plan. This is a very powerful ability, which few decks can boast of having. If you enjoyed the video today, go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons. You know I always appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next video.